Go from a fan of the show to star of the show. Send us your opinions now, and they could be discussed live on today's show. Welcome to the Rod Pedersen Show.
Good morning, Canada. Welcome to Football Friday on the Rod Pedersen Show. It is episode 192 of Canada's only live morning sports talk show. I'm your host, Rod Pedersen. We are setting sail here on the Rollout for Flooring Superstores, and Darren DuPont joins me in the bunker. How you doing today, Dupes?
I am healthy.
Good for you.
Yes. Feeling like $1 million.
Unpopular opinion here, unpopular take. Been talking a lot about coronavirus, COVID-19, like the world. I want to dive headfirst into it. Dive right into it.
Yeah.
Get it over with, move on. That's what I want to do. So I would be wading right into the controversy if I could.
Sure.
So that may be an unpopular opinion, but let's just get this over with and get back to normal. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're going to try.
We're going to try. Well, nothing really changes around here. And on just a regular Football Friday today, John Frenzy is here. He's ready to join us in the bunker. Hall of Fame Rough Rider broadcaster, the Don Cherry of football, folks. For all of you that don't know who he is, all you new viewers from coast to coast and around the world, he's a special treat. He'll be with us coming up in segment 2, along with Brandon Bridge, by the way. I'm excited to chat with Brandon Bridge. I mean, it's been a very quiet CFL offseason, and we're going to be talking about that. He's one of my topics here in the Rollout. But Brandon Bridge, the newest member of the Peel Region Police. That's Toronto's second largest police force in Canada. Brandon Bridge, former CFL quarterback, is going to be with us in hour 1. Also coming up, Mark Mueller, the quarterbacks coach of the Calgary Stampeders. Very much looking forward to our chat with Mark, the grandson of Ron Lancaster, for those that don't know. And Julie Stewart-Binks, Fox Sports alum, ESPN alum, now of her own programs in New York, Drinks with Binks and FUBU TV, correct?
Yep.
So that's going down the pipe. So everybody, while the sports world's on hold, we're not. And kind of looking forward to what, will unfold over the next couple of weeks here in sports. I've been getting messages about, what are you going to talk about? This is going to suck. I don't know about the other sports shows, certainly the ones showing highlights and so forth. They're going to be struggling. I wouldn't want to be a play-by-play guy at the moment because you got nothing to do, very similar to the athletes and coaches. But the show must go on for us. Mm-hmm. It's great.
It has to.
This might be a huge opportunity.
I think so. It's going to be so much fun, because again, this story is going to be developing on a day-by-day day-by-day basis. So there is going to be lots to talk about, and we're going to have fun. And if not, if you haven't noticed, this isn't really a sports show.
It's a talk show.
It's a
coffee get-together is what it is with a camera on.
And you know what? If sports isn't the topic of Coffee Row, we'll find out what is, and we'll be talking about that. But it is. We love talking about sports, and that's a big part of it. And sports is still, it's very much in the front and center of this, because when it comes to day-to-day life, concerts and events are getting canceled, but Brad Paisley was still entertaining last night, I think in Saskatoon.
Moose Jaw.
In Moose Jaw. There's still concerts going on. PBR hasn't been canceled yet.
No, I'll be there.
Hasn't been canceled yet in Regina. So there's still events going on. The biggest thing that's taking over the world right now is sports. It's number one. The Junos got canceled, but we're still talking about
They're taking over the news.
They're taking over the news. And the next big one is the Olympics. And when does that become the topic of conversation? Right now, it's still status quo.
For us, yeah. But the athletes are all sitting at home waiting, which we'll get into as the program rolls along. I'll put it this way. As the bracelet says, one day at a time. Today, I know we've got a lot to talk about. Come Monday, we'll worry about that, and I'm not too concerned about that. So our Elite 8 show topics that we always get through here, go through in the Rollout for Flooring Superstores. Well, we just covered it. Number 1, the latest on coronavirus, changing minute by minute. It literally is. Last night, I went to my Canadian Press subscription feed, and it had a list of all sporting events canceled or suspended by coronavirus COVID-19. It was this long. You would have been shorter to just say every league, every event.
Yeah.
Really, in sports. Because the university national championships that were set to go in Acadia, they started playing them. They've suspended them.
They're done. Canceled.
And we should say our director, Jordan, who works on the other side of this wall, he was strutting around here all cocky that NASCAR's going. He's like, he's a big race car fan. At least they're going. Not so fast. They just announced this morning that this Sunday's race is suspended.
And next week in Miami, too.
Yeah. So don't get cocky. Point two, here's one. 30-day hiatus by the NBA, announced by the commissioner David Silver last night. My question is, do you believe it? Because an NBA pundit on ESPN this morning said they don't even know. The NBA doesn't even know. This is just, we'll throw out 30 days.
Yeah. I mean, expectations versus reality. The moment you say you're sitting around being like, okay, well, as soon as it's clear, we're going to come back. Then you're sitting there with people being like, "Are we? You know, the kids in the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" And it's just like, "Shut up!"
Right.
And if you just say, "Hey, it's going to be 30 days," now they're not going to speak. And then all of a sudden, if you say, "Oh, we got here faster than we thought," now everybody's excited, right? Make no mistake, on a day-by-day basis, behind closed doors, they're monitoring it. They're talking to people. They're getting together, being like, okay, do you think we could come back next week? Well, if it's 7 days of nothing, whatever they determine as safe and all clear, they're going to go. As soon as they can play games, they're going to play games.
Of course.
Right? But they're letting the public, giving the expectations, setting expectations that are like, look, just sit and relax. 30 days is what we're expecting. If it's faster, they'll let us know.
Reading comments from our viewers from around North America right now. Michael Gregory writes in. He says, good morning. Watching in New Orleans as always. This is always a great time to write in where you're watching from. We enjoy when you do that, and it certainly tells folks a lot of information about this show. But just about the NBA in 30 days, my brother texted me this morning and said the NHL, I guess, has said minimum 14 days, minimum 2 weeks they're out. Yeah. So I didn't see that. There's a lot of information out there. I'm not getting it all. You're not getting it all. No. So between all of us, hopefully we can get it figured out. Now, point 3 of our Elite 8 show topics is the NFL. They've basically said, we won't be affected. Draft's still on, not affecting the regular season. They're not pushing that back as it stands today. But for those that say that we have nothing to talk about, if we just talked about the NFL every day for 2 hours, we could do that. And they're saying they're not affected.
Yeah.
Right? CFL, which we'll get around to, there's always something to talk about.
Always.
We're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
As long as you're entertained, aren't you entertained? That's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
Point 4. Junior hockey. This is very interesting because that's very much in my heart. And I got a note yesterday after the SJHL had announced that they were continuing their playoffs through the weekend. I get a note that the Estevan Bruins bus turned around at Defoe. You know where that is because we just drove through it last week. Turned around, went back to Estevan. This was before the announcement was made, and I'm like, I'll just wait for the SJHL to make this announcement. So the junior players are sitting at home. They don't know what's going on. Chance Petruik, you know, the scoring phenom of the Yorkton Terriers, tweeting that I didn't expect my junior career to end this way. Mm-hmm. He had over 100 points in 50-some games. And is it over? Have they been told the junior season's over? Because I don't think they've been told that.
No. How about you look at, it's devastating. They haven't been told. Everything's been put on pause. They still hope that they can finish. And whether you see the Western Hockey League, which has just a very few games left, a little handful of games in their seasons.
Plus regular season, or playoffs.
Plus playoffs. But could you go into playoffs and play best of threes to try and get things in a shorter period, still have a playoff?
You're going to have to.
You're going to have to do something. But you look at the University Cup and the fifth years and the guys who are set to be, exhaust their eligibility and be finished. How about a team like Western, who just upset the Huskies in the opening game? Saskatchewan was ranked number 2. That's a big win for them. All of a sudden, a path to a national finals looking pretty darn good. And now you say it's canceled, and the first time in 58 years, we're not going to award a national champion in hockey. All of a sudden, that's pretty devastating.
Well, and junior hockey is different than the NHL. I mean, Ryan Rashog put out a note this morning that as far as NHL players are concerned, they're sitting at home. They've been asked to stay in their team city. But if the players' families living in another city, they're going to be allowed to go home. So, but that's pro is different than junior. It's expensive to have 20 to 25 kids sitting around with nothing to do.
Right. And it's getting that messaging out there. I called Les Lazaruk yesterday as soon as I saw the news from the CHL that the season was being suspended, and he hadn't heard yet. He's sitting in a hotel in Winnipeg. They would have played the ice tonight. And he's like, well, I can only assume that we're going to stay here for the night and then bus back tomorrow. But that message has to get delivered to everybody, arena workers, broadcasters,
Sure.
you name it.
There's a note on the screen, and I will read it for our listeners that can't see it, that are listening online on our daily feed for Suds Car Wash. From the SJHL, we'd again like to apologize to everyone affected by the unforeseen circumstances impacting our season. We want to take a minute to thank the entire Rod squad for sticking with us as fans through these trying times. I don't think an apology is necessary from the SJHL. Nice of you guys to say that. They are unforeseen circumstances. I had a referee friend from Oregon text me yesterday and say how devastating not having a playoffs for them will be for the on-court and off-court staff. It is awful. So confusion reigns. Nothing new there. We move on to point 5. Frank Ziccarelli, who covers the Argos and the Tiger Cats for the Toronto Sun, made an interesting point. I was reading his column this morning. The quote was, amid the silence of the CFL offseason, and now I paraphrase, something along the lines of, the blip was the Touchdown Atlantic announced as a sellout on Thursday by the CFL. The Argos are being criticized by Toronto football people for giving up their home game against Saskatchewan to Halifax because it would have been their highest attendance of the year. I took a lot of things out of that column from Frank. Zick, as we call him. And he's a great dude. Number one, it is silence in the CFL offseason. I've been going around and around for years. I've kind of given up on that. I don't know why the CFL just wants to go away and hibernate in the offseason. I don't know why. But that's their decision. And as far as Touchdown Atlantic goes, for anybody criticizing the Argos for giving up that home date, can you think outside yourselves a little bit? Do you think it's a coincidence that the Riders are in it for the first time ever and it sells out in a day? Do you think that's a coincidence? So maybe this is a good thing for the CFL. Think outside yourselves and what's best for the Canadian Football League, and that's stimulating the CFL brand in the Maritimes. Pretty simple to me.
Think outside yourselves. Think outside of the short term, because this to me is also good for the Argos. It's good for the brand of the Argos because you expose your product to new people. If you're part of the most successful Touchdown Atlantic ever, and it's the one that puts everything over the top and creates football in Atlantic Canada and brings the Schooners there, the Atlantic Schooners, to the CFL, and you look back at this game, which maybe gets replayed, which is talked about, the Riders and the Argos, and that was the big one that sold out and created all this buzz, and then it was only weeks later that they announced the team was going to happen for real in the stadium and everything else. All of a sudden you're part of that, and that builds the brand of the Argos. Because otherwise you're going to sit back wondering, man, this business is really successful and you're killing it. I really wish I could have done that. Yeah, well, you could have if I asked you to be part of my team, but you wanted the paycheck that next 2 weeks. You didn't want to give that 2-week paycheck.
Right.
Sorry.
Short-sighted thinking.
Short-sighted thinking, right? There's bigger branding at play here for the Argos.
Interesting that Zick would write that. I mean, he examines it from all sides. He's a fantastic writer. And it's just interesting that he would put that in the article, that the Argos are being criticized by Toronto football people for giving up that game. That's the reason they haven't given up the Riders' home game for years. I think it's very unselfish of them to do that.
Yeah, smart.
But
feels like a pinball type of thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if it has anything to do with him, but
it's that culture's infectious, right? Whether he's making those decisions or not, he's the guy who's thinking up here, way ahead of everybody else.
Furthermore, to what are we going to talk about? I just think it's hilarious that we're not going to have anything to talk about. We could bring on guys like Trevor Harris, like we did yesterday, and just invite questions from the fans for 2 hours.
Sure.
It was awesome.
It was great.
Introduce the viewers to CFL personalities like it's not being done anywhere else. We have endless possibilities of what we're going to do over the next 2 weeks to a month. Heaven knows how long this goes on. But anyways, great column by Zick in the Toronto Sun this morning. I suggest you go read it. Point 6. Why is it really just sporting activities that are being called off? You mentioned the Junos, of course, and Pearl Jam canceling their entire North American tour. But professional bull riding tomorrow night at Evraz Place. I'll be there in the Brandt Center. Why is that not called off? You mentioned the country concert last night. Did this not reach the country folk?
I don't know. Yeah, it's really interesting. It is.
Ryan liked that one. I am country folk, so I can say it.
They're too gritty.
They're too tough. That's what it is.
The dial-up.
The Cowboys are tough. The Bull Riders, very tough. We're going to be there tomorrow night under the orange top. I'm sorry I cut you off, but
he's worried about getting horns in the face, and the next guy's worried about a couple of sniffles. Runny nose. Get a tissue. No, it's bigger than that. We make light of it in that sense, but I don't know. I mean, it's so interesting, and the narrative I'm hearing most often is the media is blowing this out of proportion. It's crazy. The media is going.
Well,
nuts.
I was one of those saying.
Right, but when I see that on social media and I think about it, every time I flip on the radio, whether it's to a news outlet or I turn on the TV or it's hosts, it's doctors, it's health officials saying no need to panic. It's saying good, clean hand washing is the number one way to prevent this. You don't need to be scared about going out. So I'm trying to figure out where the media is pushing the panic button and creating this frenzy. All they're doing is, I guess, talking about it and getting more people talking about it is maybe creating it. But we're doing that to ourselves, creating this buzz where I can't go out and get hand sanitizer or toilet paper. And we're down to our last 3 or 4 rolls in the studio.
Oh, don't get me started. I went to Walmart this morning. Cleaned out. And ironically, on the other side of the aisle, fully stocked with Kleenex.
Yeah.
I'm like, you understand it's the same.
But I've been told, this is a lesson I've
same
learned.
Substance.
You can't put Kleenex down the toilet. That'll plug it. I don't know why. But anyways, I'm like, if I go buy toilet paper now, I'm going to look like a doomsdayer that's stocking up and crazy.
Don't worry, you can't. It's gone.
When I actually just need it, right? I just need some. That's it. Just one.
Wayne, yes, go ahead.
The last thing with the toilet paper and the antibacterial stuff.
Yeah.
By hoarding it, you're actually hurting. I heard this today. By hoarding it, you're actually hurting yourself because you're going to be going anywhere and nobody else is going to be sanitized because you've got it all. So you're actually going to expose yourself.
Yeah, you're going very far down the rabbit hole there.
Yeah.
Wayne in Victoria says, by going to the PBR Saturday night, I'm taking my life in my own hands. Been doing that for 47 years, Wayne, for one. And for two, if you missed off the start, I want the coronavirus to get over it and move on with my life. I'm okay. I'm not worried about it. Point 7, the Rams alumni event, of which I've got a stack of tickets right here. We've been giving away them each day this week, has been postponed. Breaking news there. And I know for a fact that is not a copycat instance there for the Rams postponing it. They have their own reasons why. We are going to induct Bob Poley and Roger Aldag into their Legend Series Hall of Fame induction ceremony Saturday, April 18th. I was to be the MC. Steve Mazurek, the celebrity guest speaker. Poley and Aldag, it's been postponed. TFN. Till further notice. I'm not going to get into the reasons why. You can imagine it's not a copycat instance. And that's why I don't want to say all these leagues are just copying another because, this is the way you do it because everybody else is doing it. That's not the case. They all have their own reasons why they're doing it. So stay tuned to this program because we're the official media partner of the Rams alumni event, and we'll give you news with that. That's very unfortunate. And one more, very quickly, because we've got Brandon Bridge coming up, Air Canada. Air Canada's become Law and Order. How about that?
Yeah.
Point 8, Cameron Wake released by your Tennessee Titans. See how we could sit and talk about the NFL for 2 hours every day if we wanted to?
Yep.
How do you feel about the former BC Lions great being cut by the Titans?
I don't like it. They also released Dion Lewis earlier in the day. That one I'm a little bigger with because he had a bigger price tag for the position and was a disappointment. Cameron Wake had a slow, he wasn't dominant during the season, but I thought he had a pretty good start. He had a couple of sacks in the opening week. I thought he was pretty good. And then his season was cut short due to injury, and he couldn't play in the playoffs. So I would have liked to see him back because they need some help, especially coming off the edge. They got Jarrell Casey in the middle, but they need some help on the edge. But to me, seems like they're saving some of that Tom Brady money, right?
From Chris Cooper in Southern Ontario watching, he says, I refuse to live my life in fear. I'm planning to hop on a plane Sunday to Las Vegas for a convention this Sunday. There's a lot to be said for that. A lot of people staying home. A lot of people diving into it face first, which if I had a choice, I would be doing that, and I am, by going to the professional bull riding Saturday night at the Brand Center. I just can't wait. Was supposed to go to the Junos on Sunday. Very upset that that's not a thing.
I know.
So I guess the Cowboys just a lot tougher than everybody else, which we always knew.
Yeah.
This has been the Rollout for Flooring Superstore on the way today. As a matter of fact, next segment, we're told, Brandon Bridge of the Peel Region Police Department, Mark Mueller, Calgary Stampeders quarterbacks coach, Julie Stewart-Binks, the host of Call It a Night, the New York City sports talk show. And we've got a lot of comments coming in from our viewers, which we could always do for hours too.
Oh, yeah.
Sit and go back and forth with them. And that includes Derek Dennis of the New York Guardians of the XFL making an interesting tweet this morning. So we'll get into the players' reactions and so forth. We'll be right back. This is the Rod Pedersen Show on Facebook Live and listen live at rodpedersen.com.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.